Carl Faubert, private detective, had just traveled thousands of kilometers from Montreal to reach this remote middle-of-nowhere area, situated near the far northern Lake Etamipek. Granted, this was a great distance to cover for a sole client, but word had it that he was a particularly wealthy one. Carl had to drive a bit further north in order to meet with wealthy industrialist William Hamilton. Hamilton is waiting for Carl in the general store. It was time for him to get down to business. Hamilton was a prosperous owner who had acquired various businesses as well as metal mines in this northern region. Carl was meeting his client in a store near this area. He was on the right track. Hamilton never mentioned a road-blocking barrier. Why was it needed here in the back of Beyond? That would, however, be a mystery for another day. Carl had waited long enough for someone to come and raise it. Hamilton no doubt knew who managed the barrier. Carl wanted to give him a call, but that would have been too easy though, as sure enough the line was acting up. Hamilton never mentioned a road-blocking barrier. Why was it needed here in the back of Beyond? That would, however, be a mystery for another day. Carl had waited long enough for someone to come and raise it. William Hamilton enjoyed a lavish country house built in the very heart of the northern forests, not too far from here. The local populace was divided when it came to the affluent man. Some saw a wealthy philanthropist dedicated to improving the region's economy. Others an aging Englishman who would do anything to further his fortunes. And those ones hated him enough to go on about scheming against him. Carl was not made aware that winter would come early this year. The North made clear who was the boss up there. Snow, which didn't care much about the date when it felt like dumping its first load of the year. Hamilton had recently acquired a few local businesses, but the last straw was the reopening of a mine, which gave rise to a wave of protests and threats from the Cree people. Given these circumstances, Carl reckoned that a good number of people must be feeling compelled to oppose Hamilton in one way or another. So far, only the industrialist's house had been a target, but soon enough, Carl thought, the target would become the man himself. Carl's military training had made him a very punctual man. Being late to his meeting with Hamilton was out of the question. The truck was running on fumes. Good thing that the general store was close by. A milkman had to drive by every week to fill the bottles. The fresh milk indicated a recent visit. The Polaroid, Carl's long-standing and faithful ally, had seen a share of husbands caught red-handed cheating. There's always something out there waiting to be snapped away. An explosion suddenly occurred outside. Maintaining his composure, Carl recalled something from his military training. Wolves always stay away from populated areas. Wait, was it about bears? Carl was no electrician, but he could identify a wiring problem when he saw one. Carl was no electrician, but he could identify a wiring problem when he saw one. Hate was in the air. Seems like some villagers barely tolerated each other. Whatever happened here, things got pretty rough, and not a trace of Hamilton. You don't leave ammunition out in the open like this. Was Gilles Lachance that careless? Finding a key is easy. Finding the right keyhole, not so much. The snowstorm pummeled everything in its path. Carl was not surprised when he heard no tone. Gilles Lachance, Carl recollected, was the general store's manager. Should Hamilton not be available, he was the man to talk to. Or what if Hamilton had moved up his appointment with his physician? The note explained that the garage and the store couldn't be supplied with electricity at the same time. The note explained that the garage and the store couldn't be supplied with electricity at the same time. According to that log, it seemed like the whole village owed some money to the general store. Carl was far more interested in the bunch of nearby addresses he had just gotten his hands on, though. The Plouffe family. The old black and white show from the 50s related the ups and downs of a typical family living in Quebec City in the aftermath of World War II. It was like the Addams Family, minus the macabre and a walking hand. At long last, the crowbar was within Carl's grasp. Surely it would come in handy at some point. The note explained that the garage and the store couldn't be supplied with electricity at the same time. A nice picture of the Magasin Lachance store, seemingly taken the day it was first opened. It feels frozen in time, from an era long forgotten. A milkman had to drive by every week to fill the bottles. The fresh milk indicated a recent visit. Given the circumstances, leaving with an empty tank would be a death warrant. Carl had to refuel. Given the circumstances, leaving with an empty tank would be a death warrant. Carl had to refuel. The pumps wouldn't surrender their divine nectar so easily. In all likelihood, they had to be switched on from inside the store.